Hi everyone. I did try to make a video yesterday, but yeah, well, it kind of crashed on the way uploading, which is a real pain in the ass. I need to work out a way to make the videos onto my hard drive and then upload them. Because unfortunately, YouTube's not that reliable when it comes to actually doing a video on top of it. Well, straight onto it, basically streaming into it. What I did do the talk on, just give me a second, I'm looking for the page in my book. I have it written in here, I swear. Here we go. Sense of self. I wanted to do a video on sense of self. I did do a video yesterday, but it didn't come out the way I wanted because it crashed, obviously. It The video came out really well, but when it crashed, I was really upset because I had spent a whole 15 minutes on it and it just completely failed. Didn't get registered. Oh yeah, by the way, if you've noticed this is because I fell on some glass on the weekend. Yes, I'm that classy. Alright, so video of sense of self. This reminds me, I'm going to do several videos in the next couple of days if I can get the time to do them. Hopefully I'll be able to finish them today because I've got quite a lot in my little book that I want to share with you guys. Also, I'm actually thinking of raising the bar for myself and actually doing some, what's the word, educational videos, I guess. I want to actually start making some videos that actually allocate to parents and people with Asperger's in setting a good basis for themselves. How to put it? I guess the best way is to. I'm not trying to put a way of life onto people, but I want to share my way of life and put it within a teaching form so that people can utilize it and see if it works for them. And if it does, they can keep it for themselves. And it is theirs once they've made it their own. Because basically, there's a lot in the way I do things that seem to work really well for me. And I feel that the only way to do something when you're autistic and Asperger's and out of the box is to do it your own way. So I feel that I have a method of teaching that can teach people to do it their way based on rules and way rules, but an understanding that can mold to their situation. Anyway, I hope I do well on that, and we'll see if I do. Alright, so sense of self, people. I've got 3 pages on this bad boy. Alright, a sense of self. What is a sense of self? Well, the best way I find to explain it is that it is like the state of flow. Alright, so for clarification, state of flow is a state of mind that you become in. Best example I can find for a state of flow is if you're doing a job or a task that you actually are interested in and that you want to know all the details and all skills and all the abilities and you constantly improve yourself on. And basically, the state of flow is within that kind of subject where you become almost automatic. You get to a point where your proactive thoughts, active thoughts, and conscious self are working simultaneously to create a almost perfect um, state of flow, because that's what state of flow is. Most examples for state of flow would be what's a good example? For example, for me is if I'm with my friends and I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying, but I'm communicating within the conversation, and hence the reason conversation can be explained in some ways being a conversation in flow, because you're all communicating and it just follows one of the after. There's no stops, there's no repeats. It's just do 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 do. It all falls together almost perfectly. It's a lot of people consider it being a perfect work. Anyway, state of flow. That's what it is. You should look it up. It's really interesting. There's actually a book on it called. Hold on, I have this. Here we go. Alright. Flow, the classic works of achieving happiness. Very good book. It's not one of those self-help books that teaches you, oh, you should always be happy. It's actually a book that shows you the relevance of having um, the immersible ability to focus on something, which is something people with Asperger's is usually pretty good at. But we tend to overlook some other factors in life, and this book explains how it works so that you can apply it to every factor in your life. So I think it's very important. You should definitely read that. It's a very good book. Now, so flow, but within back to where I was. That is like the state of flow, but within a state of self, being that in this state, moving, working, socializing, and other being human, activities become almost automatic. To be clear, a state of flow and a state of self are not auto-reactive. I'm making this very clear because I think it's a very important point. Um, it is similar to a reactive state, but simultaneously the state of the minds react. I've just ran over myself there. Basically, what happens is in the state of self, the sections of your actions being reactive, proactive, and self almost seamlessly flow together in an equality state. So basically, there's no dominant reaction, there's proaction, reaction, and self. Self being the ego thinking for itself. And I believe that reactive and proactive are connected to the two parts of the hemisphere, like Freudian speaks as. So self would be ego, reactive would be the id, being your survival instincts and whatnot, and proactive being the super ego, which is your moralistic side. All right, so basically, I believe that save self is the synchronization of these three working together at once. Because state of flow can come from a lot, is only a small part of it. But state of self and being yourself in the situation, as well as being proactive, reactive, is a more complicated version of state of flow. Alright, so flow together, okay, good. A good way to tell if you're in a state of self or state of flow is by time passes by very quickly. When you're having fun with friends, you're usually in a state of self because a lot of things aren't getting into your mind that uh, it's this weird phenomenon what happens that when you are putting happy thoughts in and things just seamlessly fit together, time flies by. Yet when you're depressed in that, time seems to slow down to a real slow point. Anyway, I'll follow on with that point in a minute, but what I'm trying to say is that when you're in a state of self, you're in that enlightened part of yourself. You're the person you want to be, and things have value, but never in a negative way. Well, sometimes in a negative way, but it seems to be more positive because you're just enjoying yourself so much that time doesn't even seem to matter. Mm. Uh, I suspect that people who are usually classified as geniuses and high intelligence tend to be in this state quite often because I know that when I'm in this state, my productivity goes up almost 70% to 100%, and it makes a real difference. No. So that's just a little footnote on the suspicion I have about people who are highly engaged in life. Anyway, and so state of self is a way to get the fullest out of life. It lacks such things as doubt, fear, anxiety, and depression. Yep, I did say that. Mostly because there is no time for such thoughts and you are busy with life and far too happy to dwell on bad feelings. Don't we all want to be in that state? I know I do. And thoughts. In a way, the state of self can be related to being in a state of peace, or like peace with yourself. Also, in another way, it can be related to being smitten or in love with someone. That kind of gets complicated because you're adding an extra person into that. That brings lots of different factors, but there is a lot of similarities. All right. At first, I suspected that state of self was actually another part of the mind that Freudian explains, being that there's a id, superego, ego, and self. But I've now come to the understanding that self is something you create. It's your choices, the ones you make yourself. Whether influenced by others or not, it's more about what you chose over what other people recommended. As an ex-girlfriend constantly reminded me. um, anyway, now I believe it is the synchronization of all parts of the mind. So ego, id, and superego. And all three parts work equivalent in a I don't want to say synchronization so much because it's not just synchronization, it's also equality. Basically, in this state, I've constantly, repeatedly seen factors that point out the fact that it's justified, balanced. I keep going to equality because the best way I can explain it is equality because every part of the mind has its say and nothing is overlooked within each hemisphere. And that's why I keep coming back to equality, but I don't know what a good word for that is. Alright. The state itself relies on a fair few factors, and for a lot of people, the main factor is understanding of self. I better be quick, I've only got 2 minutes left. Alright. It definitely is a main factor for me, but I've always been the kind of guy who needs to understand things in depth until I can be in a state of flow within that subject. That's me. I've always needed to understand the very complexities of most subjects before I could comprehend them and activate them. Activate them? Utilize them, I guess. Alright, so here's a small list off the top of my head. Understanding of self. This is only in case of a person who has not got an innate understanding of people, like my best friend. He's very innate in that kind of way. Confidence in self and skills. Relaxed, flexible feelings, because this is quite important. Being able to react to something that happens to you and bend around the problem or overcome it in a way. Anyway. Courage to face fears without flinching, important. Don't mind me, I'm speeding up because I'm running out of time. Emotional intelligence, again, only if it's an innate. If it's not an innate ability. For myself, I'm not very innate in emotions. I have to spend time working them out, but my best friend, he's very innate. He understands his emotions straight up. Needs met. Basic and complex. Now, there's a lot of different factors in that, but works around mostly. Like, if you have your basic needs met, then most things work out for this. Happy environment definitely helps, but it's not always required. Alright, and one really important one, no self-conflict. Self-conflict causes a lot of confusing emotions, thoughts, and distractions. Damn, 10 seconds. Ah! uh, Alright, I think I can do with that. But I'm going to do some more on this subject. Bye.